Again, welcome everybody. Sorry, we're starting a little late, but some things happen. Welcome to the IF&W committee, and I will start with Representative Wood for introductions.
Good afternoon. I'm Representative Steve Wood. I represent District 92, Green and Spatus.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bill Brigio. I represent District 60, which is the east side of Augusta.
Good afternoon. I am Senator Stacey Guerin representing Piscataquis County and part of Penobscot County. Apologize for being late. I'm on the Canadian Advisory Board and they are meeting at the exact same time.
Dave Whitsom, District 139, Lothwell Road, Limerick, and Parsonsfield.
Representative Clucci.
Good afternoon. I'm Sally Clucci. I represent House District 52, which includes the communities of Bowdoin, Bowdenham, and Richmond.
Mike Lance, Representative Mike Lance, District 79, Paris, West Paris, Sumner, and Woodstock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jim Thorne. I represent House District 35, which are the good people of Carmel and Herman up in beautiful Penobscot County.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Rick Mason. I represent District 97, which is almost all the people of Lisbon.
And I'm Jim Dill. I represent House District 26, which is Old Town, Bradley, and the Penobscot Nation Voting District. And I will be chairing today's session. And we have, let's see, we've got 2 work sessions scheduled with maybe some language reviews afterward on a couple bills. So with that, I will open up LD 350. Which has a new title, Resolve to Reconvene the 2019 Task Force on All-Terrain Vehicle Trail Initiatives. And I'll turn it over to Ann Davison, our analyst.
Yes, so this is the work session for LD 350. The original title was an act regarding the operations of the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, sponsored by Senator Baldacci.
Thank you.
This bill is a concept draft. Amendment language presented by Representative Dill was circulated ahead of the public hearing, and the new title, as Representative Dill said, is Resolved to Reconvene the 2019 Task Force on All-Terrain Vehicle Trail Initiatives. As the title suggests, the amendment is drafted as a resolve that seeks to reconvene the 2019 Task Force on All-Terrain Vehicle Trail Initiatives, possibly with different and/or expanded membership. The public hearing was held on March 9th. The committee heard testimony in support of the amendment language from Representative Dill, BRP, and members of the public, including ATV club representatives, the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, the Department of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry, Maine ATV Coalition, Maine Forest Products Council, Maine Woodland Owners and members of the public testified in opposition, and Maine Snowmobile Association and ATV club representatives testified neither for nor against at the hearing. The Landowners and Land Users Relations Advisory Board came up at the hearing, with some opponents arguing that LD 350 as amended is duplicative of work that is already being done by this board. I've included board membership and duties with your analysis. And as a note, the committee voted unanimously to amend board membership through LD 2221, an act to amend the composition of the Landowners and Land Users Relations Advisory Board. And that will come for language review later today, just as a note. There are a few additional amendments that were discussed at the hearing. Firstly, the idea of adding members to the task force who were not represented in 2019, for example, dealers and manufacturers. Also, if the committee wishes to move forward with this bill, it will be necessary to specify who appoints members. And finally, I would recommend in section 6 to consider striking first regular session to allow greater flexibility with respect to when committees can report out a bill. And the main informational request, members were interested in hearing more about enforcement issues and capacity from the department. And that is all I have for you. I've also attached the original task force language with your analysis.
Great, thank you. Questions for our analyst? Go ahead, Representative Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ann. I was half listening. I believe we can add who we want onto this advisory. Do we have in here someone that registered an overweight ATV and somebody that had it rescinded? Is that in there?
No, that was discussed. You had brought that up at the
Right.
hearing.
I would like to add that to the panel. And manufacturers also. Thank you, sir.
Representative Brizio.
I'm in agreement with the idea that we don't need to recommission the 2019 task force. Maybe the first thing we should do is get a sense of the committee that we all support the idea of some enhancement of the landowners and land users relations advisory board, and then specify for the analyst who we want on it. That's just a suggestion.
Right. I think what we could do in this case, and correct me if I'm wrong, if we change the resolve saying that the advisory board would be the one to look at this issue, and that for this issue only, we would ask that these members, as was just pointed out, 4 or 5 others would be added to it temporarily just for the discussion around ATVs. Can we do it that way? Is that the way we should do it?
I think that might be a question for board members, because you wouldn't be making a statutory change, as I understand it.
No, right. I mean,
So it'd
that's not what I was saying here.
Mhm.
We do not want to make any statutory change to the committee as it sits.
Mhm.
But what we would say, we would direct the advisory committee to take on the task of looking at ATVs in the state of Maine.
Mhm.
Registration, weight, width, et cetera,
Mhm.
and report back to us, let's say February 1st of next year. But strictly for this topic, we would ask that X, Y, and Z be added as ex officio members just for the discussion around the ATVs. And that's what I'm suggesting that we would put in here so that everybody's clear that this is not a statutory change from our standpoint, adding an ATV manufacturer forever to the landowners advisory committee. That would be what I would think.
So you could certainly do that in a letter, and I would just maybe recommend that you bring someone who's on the advisory board up. And as long as they're okay with that, there's nothing to prevent you from doing that as a short term.
Maybe we should bring somebody up from a commissioner or colonel or somebody from the department.
Good afternoon, Colonel Dan Scott.
So very quickly, in 30 seconds or less, explain what the advisory committee is enjoined to do right now.
So the advisory committee takes on, as it's defined, landowners and land users, topics around that, whether it be ATVs or electric bikes or illegal dumping, landowner cleanup day, things that we've dealt with for many years. And it basically gets the user groups and the landowners together, both large and landowners, to talk about what the issues are and how we can resolve them. It's been in place I oversaw it when I was the captain in 2008. So it's been in place in one form or another for more than 15 years. They meet regularly and they take on different, whatever the current event issue of the day is between landowners and land users, and report back to the commissioner for maybe rule changes or statutory changes, et cetera, or just try to work things out between the user groups. One thing that's worth mentioning for what you just spoke to there is the ex officio members. These are public meetings where, other than if you're not on the board itself, you may not have the ability to cast a vote, but it's not uncommon for the board to ask experts in whatever the current topic is to come in. So they could say, we're going to talk next month about ATVs specifically. So can we invite a manufacturer or dealer to come that day? Or can we invite this person who has expert knowledge in whatever we want to talk about, rather than making them part of the group, because their agenda may change. They may be talking about land access or purchasing large lots of land someplace in the state. And then the agenda item number 2 is ATVs that week. So it's almost easier to invite people to come speak and give their opinion as necessary. And I think that could be done with a letter to the group to explain to them that that's the best route through this ATV issue.
The issue would become is if we just do it via letter and just do away with this resolve as it sits, then to report out a bill gets a little trickier, you know, from the results of whatever they come up with. Whereas if we put it in a resolve with a report back from that committee to us, then we can say that we are allowed to report out a bill. Otherwise, it's going to be a joint order or something. It's more than just a committee bill, I think, at that time. So it just makes it more difficult if we do it just via letter to you asking that, you know, you take this up and put more members on here. I'm just going from a procedural.
Sure. Well, I'm
standpoint.
sure the commissioner has the ability to, you know, advise that group to the direction of what she wants, what topics she wants them to take on, whether or not we can require a report back from them in January or not. I mean, if this committee asks for it, we could provide one. I mean, we're not going to do all that work and then not talk about it.
And I understand that, but I'm just trying to get to the next point, which
Sure.
is if we have to or want to report out a bill from whatever you report back or the committee reports back to us. It's just, it's easier if we've already have that just in a resolve saying that you will do this and, you know,
Yeah, well, I think that's reasonable. I would encourage, because we don't know who we're going to need to provide information to that as the topic changes around ATVs, manufacturers, dealers,
Right.
land users, you know, landowners, who we need there to weigh in on that. So I do think that they can really have the ability to invite whoever they want to come in, legislators, you know, to come in and speak or listen into the meetings.
sure. Questions? Representative Wood.
Thank you, Representative Dill. So we also have to look at, this is an election year, and we could have a whole new department head in IF&W, so we may need a way to have a bill, because the next department head may not want to do a bill, so.
Right.
I think we should do it as a resolve.
Great. Good point. Anyone else questions for the Colonel? Seeing none. Anyone else you need to come up and speak to us? Any other questions for the analyst? Back to Representative Briggio, you had brought up a point about where to go, or you were suggesting a way to go, and
Well, let me try this. I move that the committee adopt a resolve. I'm going to get in trouble trying to articulate this. That directs the stakeholder, the Landowners and Land Users Relations Advisory Board to, on an ad hoc basis, include representatives of the ATV world. The analyst will get this right for me, I'm sure. And review the issues related to vehicle weights, sizes, classifications, and report back at the beginning of the 133rd, and that the resolve also make provision for this committee to initiate legislation in response to the recommendations that may come out of that group's discussions.
before I ask for a second, you might want to put a date in, like say February 1st, rather than just the first of the,
Sounds like an excellent date.
it's been moved and seconded. And do you have a sense of,
As far as the people you would like to be included in these discussions, can you give a little more information?
It
Like
would
ATV
be
manufacturers, I mean,
Yeah.
what Representative Mason said?
including Representative Mason's two
Sure.
categories. Yes.
so what are those now, Ann, then?
So what I have is direction to the landowners and users relations advisory board to consider issues related to ATV weight, sizes, classifications, and report back to this committee with their findings by February 1st, 2027, and to include in those discussions someone who had registered an oversized ATV and had the registration rescinded, and ATV manufacturers and dealers.
And dealer. So that's 3, plus anyone else that the committee deems necessary to have them
Sure.
fulfill their responsibility. Representative Clucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify, so those would be non-voting members?
My understanding would be that, yes, they would be non-voting members, people who are just included in the discussions to help make recommendations.
Other questions or comments? Been moved and seconded. And this would replace the resolve that we have in front of us, completely amended again.
Just a final point of clarification, and it will include the committee's ability
To report out a bill.
Senator Garin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to make sure in my mind that I have this straight, it's striking everything except adding the advisor. Those
Striking
3.
everything and replacing it with direction. This is unallocated to the landowners and land users relations advisory board to consider issues related to ATV weight, sizes, classifications, and report back to this committee by February 1st, 2027, with the authority to report out a bill and to include in discussion someone who registered an oversized ATV and had registration rescinded, and ATV manufacturers and dealers, and anyone else who the members feel needs to be included in discussion.
Thank you.
Representative Thorn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to be clear that these individuals would be serve only as advisory and not have voting rights, if you will?
That is what was stated, yes. They're there for the discussion, advice, et cetera, and the committee would be the ones that would vote and responsible for getting the report back to us.
Is there a way to include them in the voting process?
I assume that I see someone commissioner shaking her head. Could I have the commissioner come up? Please.
So, thank you, Judy Camuso, Commissioner of Fish and Wildlife. I think the point of using this group, the landowner and land user advisory board, whom regularly, gives me recommendations. I think that's the current, and I think you all have the makeup of the current structure and the other folks that you just put on. So I think that list of people is adequate in voting. I think the consultations with dealers, manufacturers, people who have oversized ATVs who registered and haven't been able to register, that will all be part of the discussion. But I would limit the voting to the folks that are statutorily already listed.
And that's those 14 that are listed there.
Yeah.
On this one.
I think I don't know what you have, but
Yeah.
Correct.
And that's
Go ahead.
separate from the Department Advisory Council, correct?
Yes, the Commissioners Advisory Council votes on routine technical rules. You all confirm those members personally on a regular basis. So yeah, totally separate.
So they
group of
wouldn't be
people.
included in this, just,
Correct.
just
Nope.
these 14
Yep, totally
indicated
different
here.
body.
Representative Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioner. Now, when they report back on this, February 1st of 2027, when we get to report back, what if questions were asked to like the manufacturers or the dealers or the people with the ATVs, is this going to be in this report, what they said, the questions and the?
Sure. I think you could anticipate an overview of the conversations that were had and the folks that were consulted with. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Other questions for the commissioner or anyone? Seeing none, are you ready for the vote? Would you call the roll, please?
All right, can I just hear one more time the motion?
It's ought to pass as amended.
Okay, so I have the motion ought to pass as amended. Rep. Clucci?
No.
Rep. Clucci, no. Rep. Lance?
Yes.
Rep. Lance, yes. Rep. Thorne?
Yay.
Rep. Thorne, yes. Rep. Mason?
Yes.
Rep. Mason, yes. Rep. Deal?
Yes.
Rep. Deal, yes. Senator Guerin?
No.
Senator Guerin, no. Rep. Woodson?
Yes.
Rep. Woodson, yes. Rep. Biggio?
Yes.
Rep. Biggio, yes. Rep. Wood?
Yes.
Rep. Wood, yes.
And what is the count?
I have 5 in favor and 3 in opposition. Or is it?
2 in opposition. Right? Representative Clucci, Senator Garin. 1, 2, 3.
2 in opposition, yes.
Yeah. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favor and 2 opposed. Correct?
Yes, correct.
What is the minority amendment?
Mine would just be ought not to pass.
Senator Aaronson?
All right, thank you. I'll close the hearing on LD 350 and now we'll open up the hearing on LD 2217, an act related to the electronic tagging of deer. Thank you.
Okay, this is LD 2217, an act related to the electronic tagging of deer. This bill is reported out by this committee pursuant to Resolve 2025, Chapter 32. Resolve directing the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife to study establishing a program for the electronic tagging of deer. The bill directs the department, beginning in 2027, to allow for the electronic tagging, registration, of deer. The bill also removes seal fees for the registration of bear, deer, moose, and wild turkey. The public hearing was held on March 2nd. The committee heard testimony in support of the bill from Senator Baldacci, the sponsor, and a member of the public. Maine woodland owners testified in opposition, and the department testified neither for nor against. As far as issues for consideration, the department noted that in passing this bill, Maine would be in line with other New England states, all of which already allow for the electronic registration of deer. Maine woodland owners and the department cited a few concerns, firstly and principally financial concerns. According to the department, eliminating registration fees would result in a revenue loss of over $250,000 per year. Of the $5 currently collected for each registered deer, $2 goes into the Deer Management Fund and is used to assist landowners with deer conflicts. Loss of revenue to the Deer Management Fund is the primary reason Maine woodland owners cited for opposing the bill. Losing this revenue would be a significant loss, as currently this is the sole funding source for the Deer Management Assistance Program, a new program that provides cost share options to farmers that are looking to put up fencing to prevent deer damage, and also provides free repellents, deterrents, and antlerless deer permits to qualifying landowners looking to mitigate deer-human conflicts around their farms, orchards, and nurseries. Financial impacts related to departmental data collection are possible as well, according to the department, as house-to-house visits would likely be necessary for data collection, which would require hiring additional biodata contractors every year to maintain sufficient quantity and quality of data. And the department also expressed concerns about enforceability and compliance with online self-registration. Several proposed amendments were discussed at the hearing. Firstly, from the department, the idea of requiring a mandatory 1-year license revocation for failure to register deer and for false registration of deer in order to provide further disincentives to those that might take advantage of the changed registration requirements. Also, as noted, Maine woodland owners expressed concern over funding losses to the Maine Deer Management Fund and request that if the committee wishes to move ahead with this bill, the funding be restored before the bill moves forward so that landowners are not left to bear the costs of deer conflicts alone. And this links with the amendment that Representative Clucci has proposed. Copies are attached to your analysis. Representative Clucci's amendment would amend Section 1 to restore the funding for conflict management and remove the opposition from the Maine woodland owners. And the amendment would also increase the fees of some hunting licenses to help recoup lost revenue. The idea here is to increase by $2 the following resident licenses: hunting, archery, combo hunting and fishing, combo archery and fishing, and super pack, and to increase by $4 the following non-resident licenses: big game, archery, combo hunting, and fishing. And that is all I have.
Questions for our analyst, Representative Mason?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ann. I was wondering if I could have somebody come up.
Who would that be?
Whoever deals with,
Licensing?
licensing.
Licensing, someone from the department? Anyone here? Who's going to come up?
Yeah, all right.
Doctor.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Webb, for
Good
being here.
afternoon, Nate Webb, Wildlife Director.
So-
I don't deal with licenses, but I can try to wing it.
I know. Question, I take it that if we should vote this in today, that every hunter will see a fee increase in their hunting license. Is that correct?
So with the proposed amendment that was circulated, that would result in an increase to the cost of most hunting licenses for both residents and non-residents. However, the original bill as written removes the fee for registration. So I guess the way that we're looking at this, there would be a license fee increase, but there'd also be the removal of another fee, the fee that's associated with registration. So sort of a shifting of the cost from that which is paid at the time of registration to when the license is purchased.
At the registration of a deer, that's when you'd pay it.
No, so the cost of the hunter's license would increase by either $2 or $4, depending on their residency, but there would be no fee at the time of registration
Right.
of the deer.
So everyone would see a license increase if we pass this.
Correct.
Okay. Follow up. Is there any way, because not everybody shoots a deer, is there any way, and I believe this is with the turkey tagging, the electronic turkey, don't they pay when they shoot the bird? And when they register it, don't they pay for that tagging at that time?
So for turkey,
I know we discussed this.
yeah, so for turkey, there's a $2 fee to register in person, all of which is retained by the tagging agent, and that's been in place for a number of years. When we moved to allow self-registration of turkey 3 or 4 years ago, we had kind of the same discussion, the same debate over whether a fee should be charged in a case where the hunter is self-reporting. And we determined at the time in consultation with this committee that we would not charge a fee for hunters that are self-registering. So there is no cost to self-register turkey. There's only that $2 fee if you're registering in person.
Okay. Go on.
Yep.
Is there any way to put this into this bill so that when you shoot a deer, you paid it at that point rather than having everybody, whether you shoot a deer or not, pay?
Just make sure that I'm following. So are you suggesting something different from the current
Right. Well,
registration fee?
no, I'm talking about if you shoot a deer and you self-tag it, there'd be something in the tagging where you pay a fee at that moment
Right.
rather than everybody, whether you shoot a deer or not.
Right. So let me just sort of paraphrase or I guess regurgitate what I think you're suggesting. So essentially what that would mean is that for those hunters that are self-registering a deer, they would pay at that time
Right.
in the online system.
Right.
So yes, that's certainly possible. We talked about that at length kind of internally as we were developing the report back. And there's a few reasons that not really excited about that option. And they're the same reasons that we ended up not requiring the fee for self-registration of turkey. It does add quite a bit of complexity to the interface that hunters would interact with to require a financial transaction, entering credit card information, et cetera, et cetera. So it would create a more sort of clunky, burdensome electronic system that we are concerned would sort of turn hunters away and lead to some frustration. We really want the self-reporting option to be very user-friendly and just be a good experience for the hunter. And requiring that relatively nominal transaction of $5 would really make the system much more complex and harder for the hunter to interface with. So that's one reason that, we're not thrilled about that approach. The other is that, to our knowledge and research, there's no other state that requires a fee when hunters register an animal through some sort of self-reporting system. So we would be an outlier, and certainly in the Northeast, if not nationally, if we were to charge a fee for self-reporting.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Representative Wood.
Thank you, Representative Dill. So it's going to cost how much to come up with this system? How
Yeah.
much?
Sure. So the program, the development of the interface itself, that Informing will be the developer, and they essentially absorb that cost because they will be getting revenue from those registered animals moving forward, and as they do now. We have existing staff that, as part of their regular work program, can work with Informing to develop the system. Really, the added costs come in through two categories. One is there will be a need for increased tech support for hunters that are interacting with this system. Currently, right now, we have one permanent staff person and typically one seasonal contractor that provide technical support to the 250 plus or minus tagging stations across the state during the time period within which we have big game hunting seasons. And they're pretty busy supporting those 250 stations. So if we have all of a sudden 40,000 hunters registering deer, we're going to need more people available to answer the phone and help hunters work through any challenges with the new system. We do expect that the need for that will decline as hunters increase their familiarity with the system, but there'll be some ongoing increase in costs for technical assistance. The other long-term increase in costs is due to the need for us to collect biological data that we are currently able to collect at registration stations, that we will have to hire additional seasonal staff to essentially contact hunters and go door to door to collect that data. So the annual increase in costs for those two elements of the program, our current estimate is about $45,000 per year to pay for those two new elements.
Well, my hunters don't want me to vote for a raise in their hunting license fees. They feel like they're paying enough already. They all support online tagging, but they don't want to pay. They say charges it, to go ahead and tag like we're doing now. We don't mind paying to tag a deer, but people that don't hunt deer don't want to pay $2 extra because they don't hunt deer. They hunt birds or ducks, whatever. And I kind of agree with them. Why are we paying? I haven't taken deer in 2 years, but that's my choice. Why? I was going to say, why can't we take it? You got a big carrying account. Why can't we take out money to pay for the program out of that to pay it so that we can give this free?
Yeah, I'll leave that question probably to the commissioner or the deputy commissioner. I will say, just as a follow-up though, in general, the data that we collect and currently the in-person stations collect for us on harvested animals, it is critical to whether it's deer management, moose management, bear management, turkey management. And traditionally, the costs of maintaining that system, of compensating the agents for, it's a nominal compensation, obviously, only $2 per animal. That goes to stations, as well as the cost of maintaining the interface. That has traditionally been, it has been borne by hunters through the registration fee. And most other states, they do bake that cost into their hunting license and don't charge a separate fee for the registration of those harvested animals. So I think from my perspective, we're up against a little bit of kind of a cultural or historical approach that we've taken here in Maine that is a little bit out of alignment with the way that most other states do it. Sort of separately from the discussion around self-reporting for deer, I will just mention that the financial aspect of that registration fee right now, again, self-reporting aside, it is a burden on the department and our staff to track relatively nominal amounts of funding that's coming in from 250 or so stations around the state. Again, $2 for each transaction stays with the station. $1 goes to Inform Me. $2 per deer goes to the Deer Management Fund. The $2 for other species goes other places. There's a lot of administration that's going on right now to manage all of that. It's not a ton of money. And sort of selfishly, we do like the idea of getting out from under that pretty burdensome system and just baking it into the hunting license fee. But we certainly understand, the resistance that some hunters have to seeing an increase in license fees. So we get it.
Representative Woodson.
Thank you. How many licenses are sold that may require tagging?
So
you get your deer, your
Yeah.
turkey, your bear, et cetera, et cetera.
right. So any license that authorizes the hunting of deer, bear, moose, or wild turkey, those hunters, if they harvest one of those animals, would be subject to that fee currently.
Any idea on numbers? Well, license, I'm talking about not harvesting, sold licenses.
Yeah, I'll say, I'm making, sort of making this up, but it's somewhat informed. Roughly 125, 150,000 licenses a year in that ballpark.
Well, wouldn't it be more equitable for putting a fee on those licenses automatically? Say $1, $1.50, $2, because they know they're gonna be tagged, but it's a potluck whether they get anything or not. But that's in the same category. Instead of putting a burden on everybody that may not be hunting moose or bear or whatever.
Yeah, no, and I think that is our suggestion. So, and I believe that's captured in the amendment that was circulated. So the increase in the license fee would only apply to those licenses that authorize the hunting of big game. So in other words, it would not apply to the small game license, even though technically that license does authorize the hunting of turkey. So does that answer your?
I guess I
Answer your
missed
question.
that. That's a major point. Okay, thank you.
Senator Garin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I talked to a number of hunters since our last meeting, just in my district, to see what off the record their thoughts were. And their thoughts were there would be a lot of people not registering what they shot if they were able to get it home and not be apprehended at that point. They thought there would be a lot of that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that is a great point. We do have some of those concerns. I suspect the colonel would love to talk about what he has heard from his staff about concerns like that. That is not something we take lightly. We have talked about this with several other states that have implemented a system like this for deer and for other species in some cases. It's really hard to know and gather information to quantify whether a change like this would result in fewer animals being harvested or more animals being harvested. So to give you an example, it's certainly plausible that there are hunters right now that are not registering animals potentially because they were taken in violation, illegally in some way, that might be more willing to register those animals if they could do so on their own without having to go to a station, and essentially, lie to someone in person. And in those cases, that is sort of good for us on the biological side, because we would now have a record of those animals being harvested, that we wouldn't have had previously. So, I think it's hard to know, would there be more animals being registered or less? And I don't know if there's any way to predict that. I think the ability to self-register would certainly influence the behavior of some individuals, but it could result in either an increase to their likelihood to register, or potentially, like you mentioned, some may be less likely to register, I suppose.
Another question. Another one of their big concerns was biologist visits to their house. They're like, no way am I letting them come to my house. So what would you say if you called somebody and you said, I see you registered a deer, we'd like to come by and get some of the biological information? And they said, no way.
Yeah, no, that does happen now. We do those house-to-house visits currently in certain parts of the state. So that's not new for us. We would just need to do more of it. It is voluntary. We reach out and contact the hunter. The vast majority are very willing to let us collect those samples. Many of them are excited to do that. Our staff hear a lot of deer stories from the hunters as they're collecting the samples. So that's not a concern. If there are some hunters that
Okay.
would not,
You wouldn't make them.
we wouldn't make them. No.
Okay. Thank you.
Representative Thorne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Dr. Webb, for being here and providing your expert information. One of my questions was answered as far as with Representative Woodsum about large game versus small game licenses. And you had mentioned that upland game, which turkey's considered a large game, but upland or whatever. So that wouldn't work. My other question was, would the increase in the license that would affect PR money? It would increase? No, I thought it was a match.
No, yes and no. I'll try not to be too long-winded on this. So there's a formula that is part of the Pittman-Robertson Act that is based on the number of hunting licenses sold in each state. So this wouldn't change any of the inputs into that formula. What it would do is increase the revenue the department takes in from the sale of hunting licenses, which we can use to match those federal funds at a 25-75 ratio. However, again, we're also, as part of this proposal, losing on the other end the registration fees, which also can be used and traditionally have been used as match. So there's really, I would say, no net impact on our ability to access Pittman-Robertson funds.
So that's not a dollar for dollar, it's a number sold credit, if you will, on the PR scale.
Correct.
Okay. And my other question is, why is this? I'll just ask it to you. Why is it only affecting deer? Because we had a registered Maine guides talk about bear, how it would be more convenient in August to take a bear instead of driving him on the road in the warmth and the heat that often happens in August, to just take it back to the camp and get it cooled off and skun. And is there a reason why we did this only for deer and not included bear or moose, I guess, for that reason?
There is. So again, this isn't a new discussion before this committee. We did a very comprehensive report, I think for the 130th legislature, that we could share with this.
I was on
committee
another
if you would
committee.
like. And that went through kind of the pros and cons of self-registration for each of the 4 big game species. That effort resulted in us establishing the self-reporting system for turkey, which has been really a success. About 70% of turkeys now are registered using that method as opposed to being registered in person. But in that report, we go through quite a bit of information to describe why we do not support as an agency self-reporting for bear and moose. The primary reason for those two species is that harvest numbers for those species are quite a bit lower than deer. We have mandatory biological sample collection for those species, unlike for deer where it is voluntary. And the logistics surrounding getting tooth samples, for example, from bear that are harvested and then registered through self-reporting would be very difficult, if not impossible. So what we have done as an alternative for bear in particular to allowing self-reporting, recognizing the challenges around the temperature at the start of the hunting season, et cetera, is work with guides and outfitters and others to really expand the network of in-person stations that tag bear to make it easier for hunters to be able to find an open registration station. I know it's not a perfect solution for some hunters, but for us, it does strike the right balance for that species and for moose as well. So that's the reason that we can go into more detail with that or provide that report if you would like.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Wood.
Thank you, Representative Dill. So we're gonna go up on hunting licenses, but then we're gonna still have to, we'll go tag a bear or tag a deer at a deer station. We're still gonna have to pay at the tagging station too. We're not gonna have to tag, we're not gonna have to pay a tag a bear or a deer.
Correct. So the original bill strikes all the registration fees for all 4 species. And my understanding of the amendment is it would replace that revenue through an increase in certain hunting licenses.
Representative Lance.
Thank you, Chair Dill. Thank you, Doctor, for being here. I'm getting a lot of feedback of the Americana and culture that is the tag up station. Is the department getting any of that as well?
Certainly, yeah. In fact, that was a major discussion or a portion of discussion last year that led to the resolve. And we did do a survey of tagging stations to try to get a sense of what our network of stations around the state felt about this. And that is certainly one of the things that many of them mentioned. There's this culture around taking an animal to the tagging station, camaraderie, the name on the wall, et cetera. So that's certainly a factor. It is part of the culture of hunting those species in Maine. Again, the bill as written would not get rid of the in-person stations, so they would still be available for those hunters that wanted to take their animal to one of those stations to be registered. We do feel like that's important for a variety of reasons. We do suspect, I guess I personally suspect that the percent of deer that would be registered through self-reporting is probably going to be less than for turkey, in part because of that. Hunters want to get their animal weighed. They want their name on the board. They want to just go and kind of savor the moment. And part of the way they do that is at a tagging station. So we do suspect that that tradition would continue, although we also suspect that a significant number of deer would be registered using the self-reporting system as well. So our goal is to provide both options, and hunters would be able to choose which one they would like to use.
Representative Clucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would lifetime license holders have to pay any kind of a fee?
That is a great question. That's one that we have talked about, and honestly, I don't know that we have a good answer for, because anyone that has already purchased their lifetime license or had their lifetime license purchased for them, were the registration fees to go away, there's really no way to increase the fee of the license they've already purchased. So they would essentially get free registration for life without having to replace that revenue. So for those of you or others that have that, there would be a significant financial benefit. There's really no way to go back in time and increase the fee of a license that's already been purchased, essentially.
Okay, thank you.
Do you think that since the tagging station is no longer, even though it's only $2, that they get all the 5, will some tagging stations just say, never mind? Or do you think from what you just said about camaraderie and name on the board, they'll still continue to do it?
Yeah, we'd ask a number of questions about that. The responses were pretty clear. The stations are not in this for the money.
Right.
You know, the $2, we heard pretty clearly does not really even compensate them for their staff time. It's more about the public service that, being a station provides. You know, there are often some other sales they're able to make, 200s that are there to register their animals. And really, a lot of them do it as a service to the department, which we certainly appreciate. That being said, you know, as part of all of this, we would continue to pay each station $2 for each animal they register in person, but that money would flow the other direction. So in other words, rather than the station collecting $5 from each harvested deer, keeping $2, sending 3 to us, we would send them $2 for every animal they register. So there would be no kind of like net change in revenue to the stations. In fact, there'd be arguably less of an administrative burden because they would receive a check from us rather than the reverse.
Representative Woodson?
That was a question I had.
Okay. Representative Thorne, did you have your hand up?
I did. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious if we can still do in-person tagging, but the fee goes away, the registration fee. What compensates the store owners for doing that labor? Did I miss that?
So that's part of the justification, so to speak, for that $2 license fee increase is so that we get a revenue stream that we can use to compensate those stations for registering those animals.
Okay, so they get their numbers to you and you compensate them, that part of that.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Representative Clucci.
Just, I wanted to sort of make it clear for the record that the amendment language here was all proposed by the department. So I basically took it from their report back. So none of this came from me.
All right, Representative Wood, did you want to have a question for the commissioner or deputy commissioner? I know that, I don't remember what the question was, but, no, you're good. Anyone else we need to hear from? Seeing none, I'm ready for any type of a motion. Sure. 5-minute caucus. Can you let us in there? Can you let us into the room? We don't have any access to the room.
Well, we'll do what they do.
We'll just go out in the hall here.
Hallway caucus.
All right, we'll go out in the hallway. There's just 3 of us anyway. Valley, we're gonna talk stuff here. We don't have access to the building. I mean, so that's. Guys care the license.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
It's also. The guy with we were all placed bets on what he weighed. It wasn't dry. It wasn't driveway. I thought one said, I thought one and maybe the what's the guy saying?
Great. So, all right. How we do that, like, on. So in the single family thing, it's going to be there.
All right, we are back. And Representative Briggio?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would, at this point, like to get leadership of the department back up to, for one last clarification.
Okay.
Afternoon, Judy Camuso, Commissioner.
Good afternoon, Commissioner. One last clarification.
Yes.
Can you say that the department is supportive of the version of this bill that Representative Clucci's amendment would represent?
Yes, we are.
You are in support of it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So if I may elaborate a little,
Please.
I will share with this committee that a number of questions have come up, like, why are we bringing this forward and who's asked for this? So since I was wildlife director in 2013, this issue has come up almost, if not every year, every other year, the desire to have self-registration, particularly for deer. And honestly, the department fought it kind of tooth and nail. And then, as Dr. Webb referenced, because the 130th, we moved toward self-registration for turkey, and the sky did not fall. Things worked well. In fact, we actually saw an increase in the number of turkeys registered, and people love it. Everybody loves it. We are really one of the only states that does not have this as an option for folks. And so I'll share my personal story. Last fall, I shot a deer on opening day, toward the end of the day. And unfortunately for my husband, I shot it across the river from my tree stand. So he had to swim to go get it and bring it back. And so that was the Saturday. By the time we, took some photos and got the deer out and we didn't have any so we had to drag the deer back. It was close to 7:30 by the time we got back to the house, and then needed to get to a tagging station. And there were not any tagging stations open, particularly close to me. So we drove, 25 minutes to the tagging station up in Durham. But, the next day being Sunday, it wouldn't have been easy for me to tag that deer either, and would have basically required that we stay home until 9 or 10 when the store opened on a Sunday. So this really is a tremendous service and value to our customers, and something that anybody that hunts in another state is already experiencing. And so I think when this resolve came forward last session, that we were challenged with what are the issues to moving forward with self-registration? How can you solve for them? Which I believe we did. And the presentation you have is revenue neutral. So I think I think we're all at the place where we understand, all the other states have made it work, and quite successfully. And I speak to other directors, and when Massachusetts did this, they were one of the more recent states that moved to self-registration. The director there hadn't stopped raving about how wonderful it is, how much the staff like it, how much better of a system it is for their customers. So I could say that, yes, the department is supportive. It's been a transition. We've kind of evolved. That's been a theme this session. So we've evolved over time with our feelings on this, but I think we're at a point in time where we have the tools to address the concerns that we had. And I think we could move forward and provide a good service for our hunting community.
Couple quick questions, if I may. Do you know what percentage of the big game hunters are successful? So like this 150 licenses sold, a third of them tag a deer?
Oh,
Half
so
of
I mean,
them
you have
tag
to
a
go
deer?
through it. So, moose varies, annually between, on average 60 to 80% are successful. Bear hunters are a little more successful, probably 50% of bear hunters, but we register about 5,000 bear a year, right? Is that right, Nate? 3 to 4,000. Deer are, of the 250,000, and that includes the lifetime license holders, deer hunters, they have a lower success rate, probably closer to 18 to 20%. And turkey is, that one I'd have to get some data. I don't know that one off the top. of my
I was
head,
just
but-
curious because one of the things I keep hearing is, well, gee, you're gonna take $5 away here, but you're gonna add $2 or $4 over here. Is there a discrepancy?
Sure, keep in mind.
How
so that-
many are unsuccessful? I
Yeah,
guess?
there'd be no registration for any animals or no
Right,
fee
that's
for
what I know.
registration
Right.
anymore across the board. And lots of people actually harvest multiple animals, right? So lots of people nowadays harvest more than one deer. You can harvest more than one turkey, 2 in the spring, 5 in the fall. So, it's certainly, and I would also, nobody likes increases in fees, and I understand that and appreciate that. We haven't had a increase in our hunting license since 2013. So it has been a long time. Certainly costs have gone up and the department has been very good at not asking for increase in our hunting license to date. So, in order to make this system work, I believe this is the best solution. But obviously that's your decision.
My couple concerns with electronic tagging basically is increased in the number of deer not being tagged. They just, some of it maybe I got it home, I've hung it up.
Yep.
Nobody's looking, I'm just gonna cut it up and that's the end of it. And so that concerns me, but I think my bigger concern as a biologist is losing the biology. Because my concern basically is going to be that I expect there's going to be a lot more people than we think who just say, no, I don't want to participate when you call me up, and maybe I'm wrong there.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm looking at is, I could be convinced this may work. If we put in the bill, a report back in 2 to 3 years on,
Sure.
What's happening.
Yep. Yep.
Is it working? Are we seeing more illegal deer
Sure.
kills? And
Yep.
how is the biological data coming?
Yep. So 2 things the other states have not been able to detect an increase in unregistered deer. So that those numbers have stayed the same. We did not see that when we moved to Turkey either. And I would say for the biological end of things, right now, in southern Maine, so say Augusta South, that most people still, they do take their deer to a butcher. And we get a lot of the biological data in that neck of, that portion of the state from the butchers. And we've got a lot of butchers that cooperate, save heads and all the data that we need. So, and in the rest of the state, we already do that to some extent now, because there's just not the volume of deer coming in at the tagging stations, unlike in southern Maine. So I think we can address the biological concerns. And if we have a report back, if we determine that we're not able to do that, then we could report that back.
Okay. I hope whatever motion is made, I hope they put a report back in here.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
Representative Wood.
Thank you. I didn't see it in here, but is there a minimum loss of license for not reporting?
So we had, it's not on Representative Clucci's amendment, but we had requested, I think,
A year.
a mandatory 1-year license revocation for failure to register deer and for false registration of deer. And so that in order to provide further disincentives to those that might take advantage. Certainly for us, that is a much more impactful penalty than any fine we can impose. Is losing your license for a year is the most the biggest stick we have.
Second follow up on that. Is that the courts to do that or do you do that?
We do that.
Okay.
Representative Brigio.
2 questions. First, I'll just confirm what I think I heard you say, and that is the last time we had a fee increase for hunting licenses for residents was in 2013. So 16 years,
So we,
13 years.
it was after the bear referendum, so it might have been 2014. Representative Wood, if you remember, you were on the committee. And so it was a dollar increase that went into the education, James will remember, the education fund, 15, sorry. I became wildlife director in 13.
So-
And right.
So
So it was
10 years.
2015, $1 increase that goes into the special education fund that the department maintains. So that was what that was.
And do you recall when Massachusetts instituted the program, did they do a corresponding increase in hunting licenses to?
Oh, that I don't know the details on
okay.
that.
Sorry.
But we could probably find out, but they did that. They switched since I've been on the AFO executive committee. So within the past 5-6 years.
That's fine.
Representative Clucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we probably, if we're gonna pass this, as amended, we would probably also need to include that enforcement piece. Okay, I missed that from the report back. Sorry about that.
Nope.
And then, also probably need language, that specifies how to get that $2 from the general fund
Sure.
back into the deer management fund,
That's right. Yes.
and for whatever else.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Other questions?
I just want to thank the commissioner for the clarification. It's helpful to know that the department is fully on board
Yep.
with this.
Thank you.
Anyone else we need to hear from? Seeing none? Anyone want to make a motion? Representative Brigio.
I would move the bill as amended by Representative Clucci's amendment to include the language that relates to penalties for violation of the law.
And would you like to include a report back
Yes,
date?
February 1st, 2027, or no,
No,
we
you gotta
said
have
3
2 or
years,
3
right?
years.
3
yeah.
years.
You gotta have some amount of time.
To take effect at the beginning of whatever legislative session is 3 years from now.
Yes.
Rep. Regia, just a friendly amendment to then also include language about how to get that $2 increase at the front end back to the department so that they can pay for the in-person tagging and the deer management fund and for the biologists to collect samples and all of those program requirements.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Representative. You Mason.
Thank you, Senator Dill. I believe it was my bill for the turkey tagging that went forward with the electronic tagging. And I do not believe I can support this motion as ought to pass. I believe that deer tagging in the state of Maine is part of the fabric of Maine. People like to go there, show off what they've shot. And I guess I'm old school, so I will be voting against the motion.
Representative Thorne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't often provide soliloquies before we vote, but on this one, I went back and forth in my head as far as getting up with the times and everything. And I did kind of a pros and cons in my head of, we're getting with the times, we're making things more modern. And then in the other side of my head, I came up with, what other states are doing. And it's funny how we do that when it behooves us in a direction, but we are unique in the state of Maine in what we do. Our private landowners, we hear that all the time. We're unique because we have such privately owned land. The enforcement issue, we discussed another bill on ATV, and enforcement was an issue because the wardens are stretched thin and they already have so much to do now, let alone come up with another team just to go out and collect the biology. The convenience store owners, it may not mean a lot to everybody in the big scheme, but hunting season, a lot of convenience store people do look forward to drawing those people, drawing the people that come to see it, that come to tag it. And if you take that away, then you'll take away the people that just come to see deer tag, if there's not as many deer tag that come to buy a pizza. And so for those reasons at this time, I'm a no on this bill.
Other discussion? Representative Clucci.
So I'll just provide my own soliloquy on this. So to recap, this license increase is only going to apply to big game hunting. Lifetime license holders will save money for every year going forward. Successful hunters will save $3 per animal, and probably, well, no, $3 for the first animal. Yeah, no, $3 per animal. And then we'll save more money the more animals they're able to be successfully harvest. Most people that are applying for a license are presumably hoping that they're going to be successful. And so when we talk about adding $2 at the front end and a $3 savings at the back end, plus the cost of gas to drive 25 minutes to a tagging station, 25 minutes back, and the cost of your time, I think that they probably are going to support this. This doesn't change the Pittman-Robertson match. And in fact, it probably actually provides more money. Registrations registration fees will go away for all big game, not just deer. And best of all, you can still tag in person if you want to. I did share a post about this on Facebook to just sort of see what kind of support there was for this. And within like 3 hours, there were something like 26 shares of that post. An overwhelming majority of the people that saw that post were supportive of it. So I think that this is an opportunity to do something really good for the state of Maine that's actually going to save successful hunters money and time. And so I'm pretty confused as to why, people wouldn't want to support this, because you can have it all in this bill.
Other discussion? Seeing none, would you call the roll, please?
I have the motion R2 pass as amended, made by Rep. Brigio and second by Rep. Clucci. Rep. Clucci.
Yes.
Rep. Clucci, yes. Rep. Lanes.
No.
Rep. Lanes, no. Rep. Thorne.
No.
Rep. Thorne, no. Rep. Mason.
No.
Rep. Mason, no. Rep. Deal.
Yes.
Rep. Deal, yes. Senator Guerin.
No.
Senator Guerin, no. Rep. Woodson. Rep. Woodson, no. Rep. Brigio.
Yes.
Rep. Brigio, yes. Rep. Wood.
Yes.
Rep. Wood, yes. I have 4 in favor and 5 in opposition.
Thank you. I'll close the hearing. And we got a language review now. 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor.
One favor and.
Yeah, that's what she said. Yeah. Okay,
We have 2 final language reviews. I've asked Eliana to pass them out together. For LD 2023, resolve to establish a working group to identify ways to manage moorings on inland waters. And for LD 2221, enact to amend the composition of the Landowners and Land Users Relations Advisory Board. So to start with LD 2023, and again, these are both final language reviews. You've seen this language before. This amendment amends the resolve by adding 2 members to the working group being established by the resolve, 1 representative representing municipal interests from a municipality with moorings on inland waters that has a mooring ordinance, and one representative representing municipal interest from a municipality with moorings on inland waters that does not have a mooring ordinance. And the vote was unanimous. The vote sheet is attached.
Questions, comments? All right.
The next review is LD 2221, an act to amend the composition of the Landowners and Land Users Relations Advisory Board. This amendment, which is the unanimous report of the committee, adds language to specify that one of the representatives of outdoor recreationists on the Landowners and Land Users Relations Advisory Board must be a representative of a snowmobile club. And again, this was a unanimous report. The vote sheet is attached.
Questions, anyone? Nope. What else?
The only other thing, there's a sheet in front of you from the department. I also emailed this ahead of the meeting. The department is required to notify the committee ahead of the purchase of heavy vehicles or equipment. And so there is a letter, and I'm sure someone from the department can provide a little more context if you would like about this purchase.
Representative Wood.
Yes, I'd like to know where the money's coming from.
Okay. Says in there, but I think if you explain it.
Good afternoon, Tim Peabody, Deputy Commissioner. It's coming from the Boating Access Fund, which is actually a portion of the fund is from the sportsman's license plate. Actually, 15% of the sportsman's license plate, the sport wildlife plate goes into that fund. It's for enhancement, maintenance, and construction of our Department Boating Access sites. Just full disclosure, I was working on something else and found this piece of law that goes back to 1983 that we had to report to the committee on this. So here we are, just to notify the committee, but it's been in place for a long time. It's just one of those obscure places in the law book. No, in full disclosure, normally our process would go through the budget process, so it would cover that. And this one was established capital by financial order. So I said, we need to notify the committee. So here we are.
So Deputy Commissioner, then on Monday, we'd like a report back since 1983, every piece of equipment you've purchased.
We can do that. There hasn't been much,
triplicate.
Representative Dill.
Any other questions? Yes, Representative Brigio.
This might be an unfair question for you, Chair Pro Tem. But do we know when we may be meeting again?
Possibly Monday, because we do have another bill coming, I believe. And hopefully it will be ready for Monday, because I think hopefully the intent is to be done by Wednesday. And they were going to try to do everything on Wednesday, but I think if we can get this bill on Monday, rather than going right into the work session and finishing everything up, it gives us one more day.
This
But
is the Moose Bill?
The Moose Bill.
This is the Public Records Committee bill.
Okay.
Nope, it hasn't been
No.
printed yet.
So it'll be a public hearing on it, right?
Yep.
So that's why if we can get it Monday, we'll have time for Wednesday to finish everything off.
Clarification.
Yes.
We will still have language review on the
Correct.
Moose, the notorious Moose Bill. On what day?
I don't know yet when we'll be meeting. I need to speak with the chairs, but as soon as we have a schedule, I'll email everyone in the IP list as well.
Other questions? Motion to adjourn? All in favor?
Aye.